Hi, everyone. Welcome to Our Disabled Future, a series where disabled voices lead the way. I'm your host, Nico, and it is a good day for disability inclusion. Each day, during Disability Pride Month and beyond, I'm amplifying real disabled voices, where we are, where we want to go, and how the heck we're going to get there. Together, I think. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by my guest, Maddie. Let's dive in. Maddie, hi. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Of course. Tell us about yourself and about your disabled life.
Sure, thank you. So, hi everyone. My name is Maddie. I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. I am a white person with curly hair, wearing a blue dress, and I'm based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm a multiply disabled, queer, non-binary, disability advocate, and I have been involved in this work for quite some time, having been diagnosed with a rare disease, a rare neuromuscular disease at a young age. So I was kind of in the rare disease space growing up until I went to a summer camp for people with disabilities and got to meet a lot of wonderful people that became some of my bestest friends throughout my whole life. And that's kind of when, as someone who has a non-apparent disability or disabilities, that was kind of the first time I reconciled with the discrimination and stigma that my peers and loved ones, went through. And it was kind of in that moment that I realized that like there was no way that I was going to be able to turn off this like advocacy lens and exposure that I had. And I knew like it was going to be a part of my life forever. And so I grew up, I went to school, and while I was in school, got involved with some disability related things, including making like my own, kind of like Instagram awareness account, and started interning for a disability rights organization. And I was there for about 5 years until my newest job, and all within the disability realm. Um, and I've since acquired a variety of disabilities. I'm also neurodivergent. Um, I have long COVID, or I'm a COVID long hauler. So that's quite changed my life within the past couple of years, um, and shifted, how I view the work that I do and my positionality within the disability space as well. So I'm ever learning, but I love this work and I love people with disabilities. So um, yeah, my disabled life is full of disabled people. I love disabled people. I think they just are the best. We are the best ever. So um, yeah.
It's strong. I love that. It's fantastic how you say you're ever learning, and it's really apparent, to me at least, because you've discussed how your changing diagnoses also changes how you position yourself within your disability rights work. That's remarkable. So then, what does a disability friendly future look like for you?
Yeah. What a what a wonderful question. I feel like I could come up with a million answers to this question. I feel like a disability friendly future for me is just a place where everybody can be their whole selves and show up as their whole selves without any fear or retaliation or anxiety or worry that they will not be accepted or potentially harmed for the way that they show up in the world. I mean, I'm thinking about like especially, let me pause. Can I be somewhat political on this? Okay, cool. I'm thinking about, right now it's the beginning of May and all of the attacks on like my autistic and friends with autism, like from the government and then from society as a whole. I'm thinking about just the ways in which disabled people emote and have their bodies show up in physical space. And I think just what I would hope and what a disability friendly and like free future, like not disability free, but freedom future looks like for me is just that people show up the way that they want to, that the way that their body and like mind feels right for them. And I think a future that is friendly to all bodies and mind and loves and cares for all bodies and mind, like that's what a disability friendly future looks like to me.
That call for greater compassion and wider acceptance is really admirable. So, how can we make that future a reality? Are there strategies we use? Are there skills that we have to teach or knowledge we pass along? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think a lot of folks are doing the work right now too, so we can learn from advocates, especially like the most marginalized folks in our community, like looking to them for what we need to do. So a lot of my work and a lot of the folks that I look up to are BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous, and people of color, like folks with disabilities and as racially minoritized folks like that have experienced both racism and ableism, like they know better than anybody what works, right? And I think the best way we can make that future a reality is having the most marginalized folks, whether that's racially, like gender, sexuality, any kind of identity that somebody holds. I think having folks who hold those multiple intersections of marginalized identities within this current society leading the way is the best possible way to make that future reality. Um, because we're not there yet right now. So how we have approached things in the past hasn't worked, right? But there have been things that have worked. It's leading with having folks of color leave, having folks of with variety of disabilities lead, non-binary and queer folks lead, trans folks lead, and being fully for that. I think we're in such a time too where we have to be so fully like supportive and loving and caring for our fellow disabled peers, no matter who they are. Um, so I think leadership, care for one another, um, and I think like, and this is coming from kind of my work and my realm of disability is we need to talk to each other in a way that I don't know if we ever have. So I work in disability communications kind of world. So part of my work is to make things accessible, whether that's like for folks that use screen readers, folks who, use ASL, folks that need something in plain or easy language so it's more universal to understand. Like, I think we need to be tapping into those skills and leaning on people with those skills in a way that we haven't maybe fully done before, to make sure that um, we're not leaving anybody behind. And I think that's really, really crucial, especially when we think about the people that have led the most robust disability um, protests and things in our shared history. It's been the most marginalized folks that have made those things happen. So ensuring that we're not leaving anybody behind, especially the folks that have the best capability to lead and do it in a way that's going to be holistic, um, is how, we continue to make that reality a future and move towards that reality. So leadership, love for one another, and we got to talk to each other more in a way that I think um, we need to tap into a bit more.
You're a very effective communicator. Your job is a
Thank
natural fit for you. Yeah,
you.
of course.
Thanks.
That was a really well considered answer as well. Very detailed. I love what you say about listening to underrepresented voices. And as you speak, I'm thinking about in the back of my head disability friendly legislation that either has advanced or more likely has not advanced in my own experience and during my own advocacy as well. All right. Madeline, thank you so much for this short time we've shared. I thought your answers were well considered, and I really enjoyed hearing your thoughtful responses. I want to give you a chance that you and I, as disabled people, so rarely get, and that is a chance to brag about yourself, sell yourself. If there's a recent win you have, talk that up, or something in the works, talk that up as well. If you want to like establish an online following, where can people find you? But hey, just space to be your own cheerleader. Let's hear it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I love how you said that too. I think so often, like in all spaces, employment, friends, and all like social, political, however it is, like disabled people really don't get their flowers enough, even though we're really the backbone of so much of the work that gets done. Um, so I appreciate how you said that. And sure, I'll share a bit about myself, even though it can be hard for me. Um, so like I said, I primarily do disability communication stuff. So what I love to do and what I've had, good success doing is connecting with a whole host of communities within the disability community. Um, and how I do so is like through some of the language things we talked about, ensuring language access and language justice and equity for people who are not only, potentially don't speak English or speak English as a second language, but when we think about disability in the broader public, um, one little tidbit of information that's always sticks out to me is that the United States population, which is where you and I both live, speaks and read or sorry, not speaks, reads on at an average an eighth grade level, which is potentially, you know, for people that may be more like you and I who have jobs and do advocacy work, like we don't often speak in an eighth grade level or even a sixth or a fourth grade level for folks that are, able to understand and grasp really important concepts that are important to advocacy and understanding your rights and how to have people treat you with respect and get the care and everything that you deserve. So what I really love to do and what I've had the really fortunate opportunity of finding work and my self-advocacy work that I do, on through social media and things is to educate people about how to be accessible, whether it's through language, through things like plain language, which is folks don't know, is to take some complicated words and try to distill them down in a way that a lot of people can understand. So when we say something like people speak or read on an eighth grade level, not everybody has higher levels of education. Some people just understand things when they're easier. And as as I kind of mentioned earlier on, as I have long COVID and it's impacted my cognition, I've kind of reconciled and with the fact that like I now have a cognitive disability and that's something that I hadn't reconciled with before. And I think um, honoring that, but also honoring any past um harm that I may have caused by how I communicate and how I kind of may show up in the disability space, communicating in a way that's at a higher level than maybe should be more standard. So anyways, that was kind of an aside, but it's important to think of those things and that kind of drives the work that I do. So plain language, making things easier for people to understand, using pictures to display information, icons, things like that, making things translated into other languages, including American Sign Language or Braille, making things accessible for like social media or documents or presentations. How can we all learn to do that to ensure that we're sharing materials that are accessible, that we're sharing movement building materials or advocacy information? We're not just making it and sending it out, we're ensuring that everybody can engage with that. So that's kind of the work that I get to do. And I do that both personally and full time. I work at a research institution where I get to kind of translate the research finding in a way that people can then use for advocacy efforts, whether that's at like a legislative, capital in their state or like at a doctor's office when they don't want a doctor to make a decision for them or something like that. So, I think language and communication, how we talk to each other is so important. And that's kind of where I found my niche within the disability advocacy space. And I really, really enjoy it. So I'm on all social media. On Instagram, I'm at it's your fave disabled gal, but it's URFAV disabled gal. Um, and then like on LinkedIn and all of that jazz. Just at my full name. Um, and yeah, I recently graduated, or yeah, by the time this is out, I'll have graduated from the Coelho Center legal and policy fellowship, which has been a really wonderful opportunity to meet other like kind of coming of age, like next gen disability leaders that are just doing such cool and fantastic work, and learning more about disability rights and things. I'm not, I don't think I'm gonna go to law school, but it's definitely made me, really admire all of the work of every disabled person that's come before me and after me, and definitely piques my interest to potentially get like a policyist master's or something. Um, but yeah, I've just done disability comm stuff before. I hosted a podcast at my previous job at Disability Rights Florida, so there's tons of really good episodes about intersectional disability issues on there if you're interested in listening to me talk more. um, and just hearing more about some of the things that have happened in our movement that, for so often those stories don't get told, like how Nico is putting this together. So, yeah, I hope that was an okay answer. I sometimes get a little overwhelmed when I have to talk about myself, but thank you. And thank you for making the space and inviting folks on to share their stories. I think this project is fantastic.
Hey, thanks. You did great. I really enjoyed our conversation because you spoke a lot about disability community, legacy, and history. All things I wish I had a bit of an earlier start on myself. All right, folks, tune in next time. And remember, it's our disabled future, and we're building it one day at a time together. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I'm rooting for you, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Bye.